Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. While we wait, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. Please share your name and where you are from. Once again, thank you all for coming. And while we wait, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat box and share your name and where you are from. So we have people joining us from Northern Virginia, near DC, outside of Boston, Taiwan, Berkeley, Denver, India, San Diego, Orange County, LA. It's great. Paris, France, San Jose, Cincinnati, San Diego, Phoenix, Singapore. It's 2 a.m. here. Oh my goodness. Thank you for joining us. India, Toronto, San Jose, Bay Area. I see a lot of Bay Area people. Florida, Chicago, Boston. All right. We'll just give a few more minutes and then we'll get started. All right, so good morning and welcome to the Capstone Overview and Student Panel Discussion. Thank you all for being here today. Just a quick reminder, this session will be recorded and made available on the new admin website, so be sure to check back in a few days for recording. All right, so today, the agenda. So today's session will begin with introductions to our staff, followed by Capstone in Your Career. We will then dive into an overview of the Capstone's philosophy. We will explain the selection process, how the selection process works, and after that, we'll have a panel discussion with current students. And then we'll also have a Q&A. And once the QA is over, we'll break into smaller Zoom rooms, just really allowing you to connect with your peers and just get to know each other better. All right, so introductions. Hi, my name is Fritzi, and I'm the Student Affairs and Capstone Advisor. And I'll now let Kelly introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelly Klein, and I'm a senior program manager here at the Fung Institute. I spend much of my time in the MEng program, and particularly the Capstone experience and external relationships with industry partners. I believe Jennifer Mangold, who I work with closely, is not yet with us yet, but should join us soon. She's our Chief Innovation and Learning Officer and is a engineer herself.
Yes, and we also have Janine, who many of you might have already met as well. All right. And I will hand it over to Kelly, Capstone in Your Career.
Yes, so part of your MEng experience will be working on a capstone project. You'll be placed on a team of 3 to 5 people. And this experience, which is such a base piece of the program, is really going to help you with your ultimate career search. Employers are really seeking key attributes on their resumes that you'll be developing as part of your capstone experience. And they include problem solving skills, ability to work in a team, a strong work ethic. And we have data to back up all of these things. And we will be talking to you more about capstone and the placement a little bit further in the slideshow. But just want to highlight here that it's really about skill development and leadership in particular.
Thank you, Kelly, for that. Um,
Oh, hello,
so
Jennifer. Jennifer's
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Yes.
sorry everyone. I had Zoom issues. I've been on Zoom all day and then it had to restart and then wouldn't log back into the right one. So hi everyone, excited to be here. You've already met Kelly Maritzi, so Chief Innovation Learning Officer here at the Fung Institute. I am also a Berkeley grad, so did my mechanical engineering master's and PhD and postdoc here, and then jumped over to the Fung Institute to help work on some of our educational programs. So work very closely with Kelly and Maritzi on the capstone for MEng. So excited to share all of that with you. So what is the capstone? The capstone is really kind of a core thread to and foundational to your MEng experience. It's a 1 year interdisciplinary team-based project. You'll be working with a faculty or industry advisor on a real world challenge. So the project is, very situated in the real world, actionable items. It's also interdisciplinary, which we'll talk more, but you're able to work, outside of your discipline, right? It's for across 7 different disciplines in engineering. So you might be working on mechanical, working alongside EECs, or working alongside nuclear. So that's kind of really a valuable part of the experience, which I'll touch on. You're also going to be getting technical skills while you're working on the project and through your technical courses in your department. However, the capstone also allows you to implement some of the leadership training that you'll be getting. So, as you all know, in the fall and spring, you'll have leadership boot camp. You'll also have leadership courses, project management, communications throughout the academic year. And so the capstone's tied into some of those courses, and we really want to leverage that learning experience to like how you execute on the capstone. To Kelly, what Kelly mentioned about the career is that, lots of Berkeley grads are going to have the technical skills. Lots of engineering grads are going to have the technical skills. And really, how you elevate yourself in the workforce and how you elevate yourself on a team and with your colleagues is really combining that leadership experience and being able to execute on the technical strategy. And so it's a big piece of it. And also that, you're able to like speak to Capstone when you go out and to get a job, right? So you're able to talk about what you learned, not only technically, but how you interacted with others, how you had to pivot when something didn't work out, how you navigated multi-stakeholders, all key things that you'll be learning on the Capstone. And so, it really is about the experience. So you're learning by doing. There's not necessarily a right way and a wrong way, right? You just want to make progress. And so that's also about your own learning experience. Like, you might fail in an area, you might have to pivot, as I mentioned, which is just part of the experience and also part of the real world. So it's very connected to what you'll see in your careers. And there's the technical piece, so that's a key part. And you'll have a faculty advisor, whether you're on a faculty-led project or industry, that'll be grading the technical acumen and the expertise and what you put into that through your capstone presentations and your final reports. And then, as I mentioned, it's integrated around the leadership curriculum. And so, how well you're able to integrate that in. And that'll touch on your leadership comprehensive exam that you take. You'll be able to speak to some of the components of the leadership and how you explored those in the capstone. So, it's kind of what's really nice about the image experience is it's integrated throughout. So, you're able to touch on these types of experiences, your courses, and leverage the leadership curriculum and your capstone like in a variety of ways. Here's some sample projects. So they're really broad. And as far as like, we want to make sure that there's lots of different types of technical skills from machine learning to robotics to health related. So the tech that you use is a variety as well as the industry or field. So you can see right here, there's, lots of different ones. There's ones that touch on aerospace or sustainability. And you'll be able to see the project marketplace from last year to see just how large the variety is. So there's 2 types of projects. So as you start thinking about this, because the marketplace can be overwhelming because there's lots of projects. So how do you start narrowing this down? Well, one of the first ones is if you're what kind of experience you want. There's university-led projects where you're supervised by a College of Engineering faculty. Or there's partner projects where you're supervised by someone's outside external entity, so an industry or nonprofit organization, and they'll still have a faculty attached, as I mentioned, not to contribute to the technical, just to be able to grade you because you're not able to be graded by external stakeholders. And those are just two different types of experience. Some can be both research-based, but it's a different experience kind of getting that industry versus kind of working closely with the faculty. Here's an example of some of the different project companies. So we have a variety. So we have, startups around at the mid stage versus kind of like new startups, all the way to Fortune 500. And as I mentioned before, whether that's health or sustainability or space or automotive, we really want to kind of have a variety so that we can like curate a list based on lots of different interests that you all might have and what you want to work on the experience while you're here. There's also not a bad project. So this is a wonderful illustration that one of our interns did a couple of years ago, and it really showcases like how all the projects, are innovative, and we definitely have some companies that are here, but also international companies, and you're really working on all types of things that society and folks deal with and interact with, on a daily basis, and all the future of what that could look like. So there's not really a bad project. You're able to gain skills and showcase skills kind of on any one and able to leverage that in your career later on as well. Here is the timeline. So, welcome to Visit Week. We're very excited that you're here. We'll have the in-person day on Friday. So for folks that'll be coming, really excited to meet you, kind of pick out Kelly, myself, or Ritzy to say hi. And then, so we're going to share the project list with you all about mid-July. And we wanted, this is very intentional. So it's very intentional how we've thought about that as far as how we share that with you, because, there's a lot of projects. We want to give you some time. And Kelly's done a great job of, we have a marketplace, but also developing some of the visuals and interface of how you interact with those projects, how you're able to search for those, which we'll get into a little bit later. Um, and then we have a webinar July 30th. So this is nice. You have about 10 days, a little over a week to look at kind of what projects we have and the matching process, and then come to us on that July 30th webinar to kind of with any questions that you have. How you narrow them down, how you select, what will info hours be like. And then as we move to the next month, August, we'll have office hours. So every project will host like a 1 hour remote Zoom office hour sessions for you to ask about the project to the advisor. If they can share more about the project, you can ask questions. You can follow up with them after if some advisors are open to that. Um, our new student orientation is going to be August 10th. And then we will match you on projects in August. So I'll talk a little bit about the matching process, but we want to it's 9 months of academic timeline. And so we want you to get on projects as soon as possible. We'll launch the teams in, 1st of September, and you'll have 14 weeks, and then 14 weeks in the spring semester as well. And then the annual showcase, which we're ramping up for this year in about a month, where you're able to we showcase all the projects here in a really nice venue on campus, invite external stakeholders. You're able to invite folks. Friends and family and advisors to this. So it's a really great to kind of celebrate all of the work you've done. There's an image right above this in the yellow shirts. You can see that's one of the tabletop demonstrations. So I talked a little bit about the integrated curriculum. This breaks it down a little bit more distinctly. You can see there's the 2-week boot camp in fall, and that you'll take 2 courses, the research and development, tech management and ethics, and organizational behavior and negotiation. And so everyone will take those. There'll be some in-person sessions, which are always really vibrant and great. And there's also going to be remote sections because I know some people will be traveling before you make it to Berkeley. And then you'll be taking Engineering 295 in both fall and spring, and it's communications for engineering leaders. And so this is really how do you tell your story of your project? How do you communicate with others? And again, they integrate it with capstones to be able to speak to some of those aspects of the project throughout as you're practicing and learning skills in communication. In the fall, you'll have teaming and project management 270C.
In the spring, you'll have 270K coaching for high performance teams. So that's, the reason is we want to get you started early. So hear this now and do with it what you will, but we really want you to start early on the project and help project manage and get set up. You're going to be looking for classes or sort of jobs in the spring. And so you really want to get started as soon as possible. And I know it always seems, there's that old saying, and I think even academia is like how long something takes. And it's like, well, when's the deadline? It'll take 4 weeks to write a paper or 16 weeks. And so it's hard to not fall into that because you're going to have courses and other things, but really encourage you to kind of get some of those good teaming and project managed behaviors started earlier than later will help go a long way. And then your capstone. So the project actually is also associated with a course. So you'll have 296 MA in the fall, MB in the spring. You'll get your final grade in the spring. It'll be IP. So in the fall, and you're dedicated 6 hours of work per student per week. And in the spring, 9 hours of work per student. That's what's allotted for the 2 unit versus the 3 unit spring class. You'll also be able to take 2 technical department courses in both fall and spring. And then
You
going
can't
back
get
up,
people on your face, and then you start.
going up to the spring, so in boot camp, they're electives. So we have lots of different courses. They're changing, we're adding AI and different things. And so that's where you're kind of able to make your choice for your courses. So how does the selection process work? So basically, as we said, we are going to be releasing that in July. We're starting to get some projects here in April, so we'll be able to kind of like preview some companies that we're working with. But the final project list will be in July. August, we'll have the office hours where you're able to, meet with the advisors, also kind of look over and engage with the project matching process in the marketplace and see all the projects. Um, you'll be able to rank the top projects, the top 6 projects that you're interested in. The advisors then review that and see what students have the right skill set or background. And it's also, not exactly like a job interview, but a chance for you to showcase. You'll fill out a form or why you're interested in the project, what skills you want to bring to it, what you want to learn. So it's a time for you to kind of showcase that unique perspective of you and why you might be a good fit for the project. And then we place you on a project and we try to place everyone at least on, one of their top 3 projects. And then in September, we're matched, as I mentioned before. An important caveat is that IOR and FinTech and IPES concentration students don't participate in the matching process. You'll be matched with that concentration advisor at a later date. So I was going to turn it over to Maritzi now to go into the capstone student panel.
Thank you, Jennifer. As Jennifer mentioned, we will begin the capstone student panel. And I'm going to ask our student panelists to please turn on their videos. I'm very excited to have these current students with us today. We have representation from both faculty-led project and industry-led project today, offering a really great perspective on the diverse types of capstone experiences. So I'm going to have the panel introduce themselves by sharing their name, department, and the undergraduate school they attended. And we'll start off with Shayana.
Hi, so I'm Shania. I'm in the electrical engineering and computer science department, and I did my undergrad studies in computer science at UC Santa Cruz.
Thank you. Charisma, do you want to go next? Oh, I don't think we can hear you.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
My name is Karishma. I'm currently doing bioengineering, and I did biosystems engineering at the University of Manitoba.
Thank you. Logan?
Yeah, I'm Logan. I'm doing EECS as well. And I did my undergrad at the University of Rochester in computer science.
Thank you. Bharat?
Hey everyone, I'm Bharat. I'm doing mechanical engineering here, specializing in robotics. I did my undergrad at IIT Madras.
Great, thank you. All right, so we will begin with our first question, and it's for Shayana and Karishma. With so many amazing capstone projects, how did you navigate the selection process and ultimately choose the project you joined?
So, for me, one of the things that helped me kind of navigate what I wanted to join is I was in between whether I wanted to do like a research project with faculty or something industry related. And I ended up kind of knowing early on that I wanted to do an industry project just because I felt like for me personally, it would help prepare me more for when I graduated and wanted to like work in a software engineering role in industry. So, I kind of looked at the projects that were offered in the different companies. And so I applied to mainly companies that were sponsoring projects. And I ended up going with a Siemens project where we work on like automating energy and working on smart buildings to kind of figure out how to optimize energy and reduce carbon costs. So for me, I think the main thing was knowing that that would help me with like applying to jobs and being able to speak from the experience of like someone who's worked with a company and then how that would prepare me for when I finished school.
Thank you.
Yeah, my process was very similar to Shania's. I was definitely overwhelmed by seeing the amount of projects that were offered. And so I started off by looking at the ones for bioengineering. And because I'm specialized more in like biomedical engineering device design, I narrowed it down to that. And then, similar to Shania, I also wanted to do industry-based. So I looked at the industry-based ones, and then I looked at the skills that I could offer to that project because I wanted to make sure that I had the right skills to help the team and have a good, successful project. So then I looked at that. And then by then I was able to narrow it down to about like 10 projects. And then from there, I got my top six.
Thank you both. Moving on to our next question. As you move through the capstone journey, what have been the most rewarding or valuable aspects of the experience so far? So I'll invite Barath and Karishma to share their thoughts.
Yeah, so I would say basically the biggest rewarding experience would definitely be the way the whole thing shapes out at the end. Because to be honest, like when you join the project for the first time, some of the students might be like totally new to the field uh, that the project is based on. So you'll be having uncertainties. You will be thinking, oh, maybe I might need to sit and learn a lot right now so that I can start working on the project. And the basic questions that ponders in every student's mind. So you start with this uncertainty, then you be like, oh, I need to learn XYZ in order to do ABC. And you spend like 2 or 3 months in that, and you feel like, oh, I need to start working now, maybe not studying at this point. But as you know, the journey is a compound growth. Eventually, you will reach your deliverables, and when you move in this journey, it's really important to like look back, and that's something which my capstone team does like every month. And right now, at this point of my capstone journey, when I look back, the most rewarding experience right now is basically everything that we did so far. Because there's no way that I would actually be able to learn this much stuff and implement it in such a short span if it wasn't for the capstone project. So that would be like the most rewarding experience. And also another thing would be the things that you learn for sure. Because my project is basically just machine learning for drone systems. So machine learning as it is, then drones, robotics, autonomous systems, then the basic skills like coding and simulation and stuff like that. It's definitely these things are something which I can put in my resume, some talk about it to like anyone that I'm meeting out there, and even to potential recruiters. So these things reward me in that aspect too. So overall, it's a very wholesome experience, and definitely you're working with a couple of three amazing team members all the time. So it's a lifelong, not a lifelong bond. Hopefully it's a lifelong bond. So we are in pretty cool terms. So it's good. So these are some of the rewarding experience that you have through this entire capstone experience. Uh, I'm handing it over to Karishma to talk more.
Yeah, I completely agree with the things that Bharat said. I definitely have like some similar experiences, but overall, I'd say just like being able to take a concept and then getting a functional system at the end is definitely very rewarding. I'm working with Starkey, which is a hearing aid company, and we're working to see if we can use hearing aids to measure physiological signals. And so that definitely has a lot of real world impact. And that's something that I've always been interested in. And so for me, that's been really rewarding to see starting off with that idea and then doing the research and seeing if it's even possible. And then the clinical impact that could come out of that is really great. And then another really rewarding thing has been able to work with interdisciplinary teams. So in my undergrad, it was very much you work with your department. But here we've had the chance to work with people from different departments that have different skill sets, which I've been really appreciative of. So my project's really cool in the sense that we get to do a lot of hardware stuff, a lot of coding, a lot of electrical work, and I've been able to learn from my teammates as well. So I feel like that's been very rewarding overall.
Great insight. Thank you. Now I'd like to turn to our next question. Beyond the technical work, how has the Capstone project challenged you and helped you grow your leadership skills? Logan, Karishma, can you please share your experience so far?
Yeah, I think with my project specifically, we work with a few different labs like around the country. So we have our lab at Berkeley, which is a robotics lab. So my project specifically is working on autonomous race cars and sort of systems with that. So there's a team at Berkeley working on it. There's a team in San Diego working on it. There's a team in Hawaii working on it. And so that's been an interesting sort of challenge to navigate in the sense that, when we're having roadblocks, when we're having issues and we have to meet with these teams like debug or go over next steps and that kind of thing. We have to be like really efficient in how we do the meetings, how we plan for these meetings, how we have all those kind of things set up. So we make the most of those times because we only get to meet with some of these people once every couple of weeks, and being able to make the most of that kind of time has been an interesting sort of challenge to navigate. Um, outside of the technical stuff, like what code works, what code doesn't work, like how do we understand the different types of people who are working at these different labs. What do they respond to? How do we get the most sort of out of our weekly or even bi-weekly interactions, that kind of thing. And that's been something I've had to work out a lot. Like, how do I plan for these meetings? How do I follow up on these meetings in the right way? How do I work with the other people to make sure everyone's sort of in the loop? Which I think is really super real world application of these kind of things. I think especially in industry and bigger companies is a really important factor of working remotely and working with lots of different teams. And that's been something I've, found really valuable in being able to learn from that outside of the technical piece of it.
Yeah, I agree with what Logan said. I think like beyond the technical components, there's definitely been opportunities to grow in the leadership area. As I mentioned earlier, I'm working with the company, and one of the people that we're working with is actually the CFO of the company. And so coordinating with him has definitely been hard. He's like a really busy guy. So we've been working a lot on like coordinating those timelines, managing our deliverables, making sure that the things that we present to the company are of good standard, which I think is really important as well, moving into that industry role after graduation. And then, like, just overall communication has been really important as well. If we're at a point where we feel like we're stuck or it's just something that's not going to work, we have to communicate that to the company and explain why it's not going to work. You can't just say, like, this isn't working. We have to show them what we've tried, and then from there, um, then you can make changes. So I feel like I've been pushed to become a lot stronger as a leader in that aspect. And then, yeah, just overall, like maintaining team dynamics has been really important as well. So I feel like the capstone has a good balance of those technical components as well as leadership.
Thank you both. Let's move on to our next question. Looking back to late August, what advice would you give incoming students to help them navigate the Capstone Advisor office hours and make the most of that opportunity to narrow down project choices? Barack, Logan?
Oh, yeah. So I'll go first. Definitely, this is one of the most important, like I would say, phases of your, capstone selection. Because the thing is, usually there are two kinds of people who take up these projects in this stage. One are students who really want to like learn something completely new, or it could be like, or you could like just want to work on something which you're already strong at. And both of them are pretty supportive in the current environment, and the most important thing that you got to remember right now is to understand what the project advisor has in store for you and exactly what you want out of the project. So right now, utilizing these capstone advisor hours to have some clarity on this aspect is really important. Because personally, I can tell you what I did so that it could not like exactly match with your intentions, but in one way or the other, you can like get some ideas out of it. So personally, I wanted to learn or work on a capstone project, which was not directly something I had worked on before. I want to learn new things. I want to be strong at something new. When I chose so when I was about to rank my six capstone projects, I kept that in mind. So I went to office hours, I mean capstone office hours with my advisors to primarily, what do you say, talk to them regarding, okay, like this is my intention with the project. This is something which I can, what do you say, match with your expectations. That really helped me in choosing my top six, because like there were a lot of topics or projects out there in which I was really strong at because I had worked on that before. So it's a really tough choice to make. But I would say first understand in which sphere you fall in. Is it like someone who wants to like try something new, someone who basically wants to work on something they're already strong at, and then utilize these capstone hours to get more understanding on the tech that they're building, on exactly what their expectations are and if it's an actual match to what you want to do in this capstone, what do you say, project. And then, ask as much questions as possible. I would highly recommend that because there's nothing like less communication. Just over communicate, ask as much questions as possible, and get as much info because it would really be uh, beneficial for you in like coming up with the top six projects to like choose your capstone. That's it. Oh, Logan.
Yeah, yeah, I think a similar point to that I would make is, yeah, just being able to understand what sort of the advisors or professors are looking for. I think a lot of the projects are pretty open-ended from the start. So it's a good idea to sort of, even if the description is pretty open-ended, they'll have sort of more an idea of what they want or what kind of majors, what kind of concentrations they want. So going into that being like, hey, what kind of people do you need? What are you looking for? How would, a capstone member fit into this? What would they be working on? Is a really good idea to get really into like the nitty-gritty of what they actually want, and it'll be better to get that in person. You can get more specific and more in depth with that kind of thing. And I think at the same time, yeah, just being able to understand their sort of passion project, what they understand about it, what you kind of want to get out of working with that professor, 'cause especially, being at Berkeley, being with some of the professors or the industry partners, you get access to a pretty good level of expertise, and, understanding which ones you want to know more from or which ones you want to be able to work under, um, is something that you don't necessarily get just from the project description or from researching these people. It's the things that you get from really talking to them and getting to understand them and getting to know them on a more personal level. So I think those two things are the main ones, just understanding what they want and sort of who they are as a professor or industry partner.
Great advice. Thank you for sharing. Moving on to our next question. Any tips on connecting with your capstone advisor and establishing good ground rules for the project work guidance? Shania and Logan, would you mind sharing your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. So, I think one thing that helped like me and our team connect with our capstone advisor was we kind of initially just did like a team bonding meeting. So we had the opportunity to like introduce ourselves and do like icebreakers and kind of share like what are each of our interests and strengths and then why we're part of the project and what we're looking to do. Probably one thing that would be helpful to establish like within the first week or two would be setting up like a regular meeting cadence. So for us, we figured out, for example, like every Thursday morning, we're going to have a team meeting and kind of like you do when you like work at a job, I guess, like share our project updates and then any blockers we have, what we're going to do the following week. We discussed like general logistical things, like how we want to communicate. Do we want to use email, Slack, like those kind of things? So I think establishing that helped and kind of build trust with the team as well because they knew like we are kind of managing these things and then we're communicating. And then probably like project work wise and guidance for that is like it just helps if you regularly communicate blockers and like keep things updated. So for us, we keep like a meeting agenda document and take notes and then have like to-do lists and stuff. So as long as you're organized and communicating regularly, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, you have your sort of structure as well. I think the biggest thing I've noticed, like that I didn't really expect working through it, was that, so very similar to an industry kind of being in a job space. These people are here to help you, but they also have their own projects they're working on, their own research. They're managing a few different teams working on things. So it's like they're not your main priority. So I think being really conscious about taking that leadership stance and sort of taking the lead on a lot of the things, even when, not waiting on the professor or the industry partner to lead the way, sort of doing that yourself and being able to be really on top of that and really, take advantage of that leadership aspect because it's sort of not, I think in undergrad, there's a lot of these projects that sort of center around you. You have your TAs, you have your professors that are, gunning for you to do the best you can and supporting you every step of the way. Whereas when you get into capstone, it is more professional kind of thing. They're working on a lot of different things. You're one team they're working with, and you sort of need to make sure that you're providing that service and, taking things to the table and not really expecting people to hold your hand in that kind of sense. So being really on top of that from day one is, a big advice I'd sort of have for myself starting out again and anyone coming into it.
Thank you both. As we wrap up, we have one final question for Bharath and Shania. What helped you bond as a team? Oh no, sorry, we already did that. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you once again to our amazing student panel for sharing and for sharing their insights and experiences with us today. Thank you so much. All right, so this is the preliminary list of capstone projects. So please be sure to look at this at your own time. We can drop the link in the chat as well. And of course, due to the nature of the capstone program, some of these offerings might look different. And so here are just a few quick reminders. Please make sure to check out the new admin website. There are a lot of great resources available for you to learn more about the MEng program. This entire week, there will be a number of virtual events, so please be sure to register for the Zoom links. And don't forget the deadline to accept our offer of admissions is April 15th. All right, so now we're going to do Q&A questions. So please feel free to raise your hand, or you can also chat your questions as well. And my colleague Jennifer, Kelly, and I are happy to help answer any of these questions.
Or if you put a question in the chat and you want further explanation. And we can go ahead and stop the recording.
Okay.